I have been thinking about loss and how you cope with it, how different people cope with or deal with loss, and some cry, some don't, some just moves on, some get like rages out. What do you think? Like, do you agree with it or?
Yeah, yeah, people deal with loss in
Yeah.
many different ways,
Mhm.
and it is also, for example, if you look at Robert Frost's poem Directive, we can see that death is a very clear uh, theme there, because in Directive it's kind of, I see it as kind of a guide on how you deal with it,
Yeah.
and it's kind of a how Robert Frost's how to guide on how you survive.
So you mean the title, like how, like already in the title it says how you, like the instructions.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Exactly. And also from looking at Robert Frost's biography, we know that he lost a lot of his kids and a lot of people. So he has been dealing with loss a lot of times.
Yeah.
So by now by the time he wrote this poem, he knew a lot about it and how to deal with it. Because in the finishing lines he says something along the lines that here's the waters, drink it and be whole again beyond confusion. So like take the guide and follow it. You'll be as normal as before.
But do you think like this poem is actually really positive? Like he's trying to say that everybody can find his path and everybody will be able to be whole again. Because like if you look, like when you read the title, you see it says directive. Okay, we see it's a set of instructions. But then when we read the first line, it says back out of all this now, too much for us. He's saying back out. It's kind of unclear. It's a bit ambiguous. Like he first said it's a set of instructions and now he's telling us to not. So there's kind of maybe shows that what is on the surface is not what it actually means. Like what he's trying to say. Like
so you mean like he's trying to talk in a, like deliver this message in an ironical way?
Yeah, it might be.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Even though it's like he depicts it as a positive journey and something that you will do. Maybe he's trying to say that it's a joke to think that you can actually be whole again.
So he like makes fun of people that does like.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Because I think like coming from New England, he probably has a more realistic view, a pessimistic view on life.
Sophoclean view.
Yeah, that we
Okay.
can't be fully whole.
And since he's he's encouraging a lot in the end. He's
Yeah.
saying think this, do this, do that, and in the beginning it's like back out. So it's like opposite.
Yeah.
And I also think that when he talks about in the directive, he talks about his memories. And when he describes his memories, he shows it in a more like, you can't trust your memories. He describes it as being like loss of detail, burned, dissolved, and broken off. We only like have vague ideas of what happened in our past. So if you like think that by going in your past and going on this journey, you can like be whole again, think again, like, are your memories actually what you think? Are they realistic?
Yeah.
Are you basing it on something like a bit rational?
Mm-hmm.
And he's also saying like graveyard marbles and in the weather or something. Which kind of shows that he means that memories are like marbles. You can't relive them again. They are just there.
Like graveyards.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like it's very old.
But in the poem it says it has a part where it says under a spell, so the wrong ones can't find it, so can't get saved, as Saint Mark says they mustn't. And I think there, like, he agrees with Saint Mark, because Saint Mark was a person that said that even like if you sin, you can be whole again. Yeah. So I think there he's not ironic in that part. He's really reflecting. Oh, I mean, like shows his true self, like the Sophoclean and the realistic.
Yeah,
way of
it's really
thinking.
see like his idea, like New England's idea of predestination. That a select few are elected to be able to follow the will of God in the right way.
So he's kind of putting out his true personality through Saint Mark.
Yeah, in a way. We can kind of hint at it. Maybe this poem is not as positive as
Yeah, now it makes sense when you said that. It's like it show like how it makes fun of the ones that think so, and the poem is ironic in general, because this specific line shows how he really thinks, and the others were really like opposite to what he was talking. So yeah, it makes kind of sense that you
And also the theme of loss and death is very common in Robert Frost's poems.
Yeah, all the Robert Frost ones.
Yeah.
Not all, but
The ones we read.
Yeah, exactly. So, for example, in The Death of the Hired Man, Silas, a character in the poem, he doesn't really care about his life and doesn't have an organized life, and he dies in the end. And also in Out, how a boy isn't paying attention to what he's doing, so therefore he loses his arm and eventually dies. So it's kind of common in the poems that we have.
Yeah. So but the thing is, what I think is, in the two poems about Death of the Hired Man and Out, he talks about how death can be like death as a teacher. Do you get me? As in Directive and the other poems. In the other poems, like, he talks. The other poems, he's talking about not talk. I mean, he's showing his true self and how he views on the fact about like on the realistic way of dealing with loss.
Like taking like your previous losses as a lesson for later in life, instead of going like delving into your past and really thinking and being lost there. Be a bit more like, okay, yes, this has happened, but now I need to move on.
Yeah.
Living in the moment. And,
But, don't you think that the poem we read, The Clearing?
Yeah, I was going to say that we see that Robert Frost's tone and most of his poems are very cold.
Yeah.
Except for Directive, which is kind of in between because it's between cold and warm tone.
And the warm is the ironic part.
Exactly. That's ironic.
It's ironic.
And so we can compare it kind of to Thomas Transomer's Declaring.
Okay.
Which in that poem he says, write it down and forget it. So it's kind of like Directive, because in Directive it's like drink it and be whole again. So it's like you will forget it. You will go back to how you were before the loss.
Yeah.
Which is also in Declaring, because it's just write it and then forget it.
So you mean that they have the same kind of view?
Exactly. So they have this move on type of message.
Okay, right. Okay, so that we shouldn't dwell on the and like, so you have to just move on.
Exactly.
Okay, all right. Yeah.
And in Declaring, he also uses kind of nature, and also Directive uses nature.
Yeah.
And I think nature is quite a good theme of showing many other themes. For example, loss. And because loss is part of life, you need to, like as in Directive, you need to let go of your memories. You do, it's natural. Without you knowing, you lose bits of your information about your memories, lose little details. And as you grow up, you lose your childhood. It's part of life. And in a quote by a Buddhist monk who said, life is stepping out onto a boat that is about to sail out to sea and sink. Loss can come to anybody of us. We are like unexpecting it, and then it just comes. Death as well. And
how do you relate this Buddhist quote to like Robert Frost? Do you like?
I think he has a very realistic view on life.
Okay.
That
as this quote also. Okay.
You need to be ready for death. You need to be ready for loss. It's part of life.
And also the people around you shouldn't, like, it will happen to them. Eventually it will also happen to them.
Yeah.
So they should just move on, because like they're losing time by crying or.
For some time it may be okay, but not like really.
Exactly.
So so we have been talking about how you cope with death and loss, and also been talking about how death could be like death as a teacher. So you guys agree with this is like a big theme of Robert Frost, and how how the different poems show the different aspects, but the same anyway. Like it's kind of the same but different.
Like different ways of expressing it, different situations.
Exactly. The different ways of expressing it, but the same kind of meaning behind it. Behind it.
What you're trying to get at, like really.
Yeah.